So this package arrived on my porch not too long ago. This is a full disclosure. Vevor reached out to me and asked me to evaluate one of their pressure pots for them, so they sent me this one for free to take a look at. So let's get this thing opened up. So first impressions, this is a pretty stout tank. It's built more like the expensive brands, instead of using the cast clamps that you would see on the cheaper brands. They went with using bolts and wing nuts. So, alright, so this was set up for paint, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of modification, but not much. The instruction manual, and they even sent a, looks like a stainless steel floor for it. So one thing that I'm going to need to do is I got to get rid of this pickup stem for a paint can. Okay, so now that that's out, that should be pretty much all I have to do for modifications on this. Put this floor back in. That gives me a nice flat bottom, and the resin shouldn't stick to that stainless steel too much. Alright, now that this is all modified, let's seal it up and put some air in it and see if it holds air pressure. Okay, so it's charged up to 55 pounds. I don't hear any air leaks, so we let this sit for like 20 minutes and see if it holds it or not. Alright, so it's been 20 minutes and it's still holding its 55 pounds of pressure, so I'm going to let this thing sit overnight and then check it in the morning and see if it's still holding its pressure good. If it does, it's going to get a thumbs up from me. So I got a little sidetracked, and this has actually been under pressure for a couple days now. And believe it or not, it's still holding it right around 55 psi. So far this gets a big thumbs up from me because it held pressure really good like the more expensive pressure pots do. So now I'm all done with my testing. Let's depress. And My next step is let's make something to cast in this thing. Okay, so now it's time to do the casting. So here I have a piece of a maple burl cap with a lot of the nobules and stuff on it. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on the bottom, and then drop it into my mold, which is just an empty plastic food container. I saved the nice round ones because they make good disposable molds. Now that the hot glue is set, it's not going to rise up when I pour the resin in. So we're going to unplug this hot glue gun now. Always remember to unplug your hot glue gun so you don't burn your house down. Put that off to the side for a minute. Got another container of the same size that I'm going to use as my mixing container. I'm using Aluminite Clear Slow, so it's measured by weight, not by volume. And it's equal parts. Alright, so when you want to mix resin, you want to do it in a well-ventilated place. I actually have an exhaust fan running to pull some of the fumes out, because even if you can't really smell it, the resin does create fumes as soon as you start mixing it together. I got my scale set to grams. So for this side, I'm just gonna eyeball about halfway to the volume that I think I need, which it makes it easy when you use the same size container to mix in as your mold is, so you won't have too much extra waste. So there's 308.6 grams. I'll tore my scale out. Okay, right on the money. Scale all the way, and I'm also working on a piece of parchment paper, so if I spill stuff, it's easy peasy cleanup. Alright, so I'm going to dye this ocean blue, but I don't want it super dark, so that's about all the dye I'm going to use. It's Aluminite Clear Transparent dye. It's extremely concentrated, so it doesn't take a lot. Mix it around, make sure you scrape the sides good, because you want a complete mix so that it cures properly. That color looks good to me. It'll be nice and transparent so you can see all that live edge burl through it once I'm done turning it and polish it up. Not too concerned about air bubbles because this is going to be going into a pressure pot. Alright, so now let's pour this over the piece of burl. Now I did baked this burl for a couple hours just to make sure that it was completely dry, because Alumilite Clear and Clear Slow does not like any moisture in the wood. Put threads in woods that you normally can't thread by hand. So a little bit of mold release. Give me one. One little extra casting to add to my collection for when I do some thread chasing. Now everything's going to go into the pressure pot. It's the nice thing about this pot is it comes with a, looks like a stainless steel flat bottom disc that you could put in there. Get the lid on. Okay, now we just let it sit. Clear Slow, you can let it sit for an hour. I usually let it sit overnight just to be on the safe side. So I will open this thing up tomorrow and see how the casting came out. Okay, so after it's sitting overnight, again, it's held its 55 psi, so it's doing a good job, and doesn't have any leaks in it. So we're going to vent the air out and open up and take a look and see what we got. Okay, so there's a little puck that I made, and there's the casting. See if I can get this to pop out. If not, there we go. So perfectly clear with just a little bit of blue tint. Next step, we're going to get this on a lathe and turn it into something. So I have this blank mounted between centers. I'm going to be turning this whole thing between centers. I'm going to turn a sphere out of it. I'm going to start off with a 1/2 inch bowl gouge, and if I need to, I'll drop down to a smaller gouge. Alright, so now that I have the rough shape of the sphere done, the next thing I need to do is make 2 mounting points so that I can pinch it between centers to get those nubs off and to completely round it around. So I got a piece of scrap wood and a set of jaws. I'm going to turn a curved recess into it that will match the shape of the sphere so that I can easily rotate the sphere as needed. Okay, so that I have that one, I'm going to actually see if my cone center for my live center is the right size, and no. So the next thing is it's one that I made previously. It was for a smaller one, but it fits in my cone center, and this should be big enough to securely pinch this thing in between. Okay, so it's all shaped and it's pretty round, so the next step is just to do a bunch of sanding on it. Okay, so now that I have it sanded down to 400 grit, I switched over to my vacuum chuck, and I'm going to go from 600 grit up to like 12,000 grit to get this acrylic really shining so you can see right through it. So from now on, I'm going to be wet sanding. Alright, so now that I'm sanded up to 1500, next I'm going to switch over to micro mesh sanding pads. They go from 1500 grit all the way up to 12,000 grit. It's going to really make this thing shine. Alright, so this is just a little bit of acrylic scratch remover, just as a last polishing step. So take a tiny bit and spread it around. Then take a clean rag. So now all I have to do is take it over to my buffing station and give it a quick polish. So buffing is the final step that makes acrylics really shine. I'm using a buffing system that uses Blue Rouge, which is a plastic polish. Alright, so now that I got the buffing compound buffed on, I'm going to switch over to just a clean cotton wheel to take any residual buffing compound off and make it shine. So there's the completed sphere. You can see all the live edge burl right through the resin. It's got a little bit of a blue tint to it, so it makes it look kind of like in the bottom of the ocean.